Councillor Brown, just to confirm that the live stream has started.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the meeting of the Cornwall Council Electoral Review Panel. I'm just going to read a few points about the way in which the business will be conducted, and then we'll open the meeting formally. Welcome to this virtual meeting of Cornwall Council's Electoral Review Panel. Before considerations of today's business, I will outline the protocols for the meeting. Today's meeting is being live streamed to the public via Microsoft Teams and is also being recorded. If the council's live stream fails during the meeting and we cannot share the proceedings, I will adjourn the meeting so that access can be restored. If the issue cannot be resolved, I will halt the meeting and the remaining business will be concluded at a future date. If a member experiences a technical issue, I will adjourn for a short period to try to re-establish their connection. When members are speaking, they may choose to use their video. As I call members to speak, I will remind you to switch on your microphone. If for some reason you cannot be heard, the democratic officer will advise you. Votes will be taken by a roll call of committee members. Where a member has declared a non-registrable interest, a disclosable pecuniary interest, or an interest by virtue of any trade union membership in a matter, they must leave the virtual meeting. Their departure will be confirmed and they will be invited to rejoin the meeting at the appropriate time. To confirm the procedure for today's meeting is that committee members and indeed other councillors who wish to speak on an item should indicate by typing an X in the chat box. Before we start today's business and the agenda, I will ask the Democratic Services Officer to confirm members and officers in attendance.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm just going to do a quick roll call. I'll call each member's name. If you could please confirm that you're present and let everybody know the division that you stand for, that would be great. Thank you. If we start with Councillor Bastin.
Good afternoon, John Bastin, Councillor for Constantine, Mornan and Budok.
Thank you. Councillor Brown.
Good afternoon again. Malcolm Brown, Councillor for St Austell, Bethel.
Thank you. Councillor Cole.
Good afternoon, Councillor Cole representing St Eneder Parish.
Thank you. Councillor Formosa.
Mark Formosa, Newquay Treviglas.
Thank you. Councillor Frost.
Hi, Lee Frost, Councillor for Bobbinston Petrock.
Thank you. Councillor Kenny.
Good afternoon, Joanna Kenny, Councillor for Newquay Pentire.
Thank you. Councillor Moorcroft.
Good afternoon, everyone. Robin Moorcroft, Councillor for Weybridge West.
Thank you. Councillor Rouse.
Good afternoon, all. Jordan Rouse, Councillor for Part and St Blazygate.
Thank you. Councillor Mike Thomas.
Good afternoon, Councillor Mike Thomas, representing the land of North Helston Parish.
Thank you. And Councillor Wood, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. Councillor John Wood from Roach Division. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman, I'd also just like to confirm the officers in attendance. I'm Steve Childs, I'm the clerk for the meeting. We also have Stephen Taylor, Stephen Foster, Andrew Harry, Dan Webb, and we have Sarah Mason from CALP. I think that's everybody. If anyone can shout if I've missed anybody off that list. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to confirm, we're following the same agenda with the same pack as was issued for the previous meeting on the 1st of October. Item 1, apologies for absence. I don't think there are any today, are there?
Nope, we've got everyone in attendance today, Chairman.
Jolly good. Item 2, declarations of interest. Again, I don't think there are any. There haven't been in previous meetings. Item 3, consideration of responses to the Community Governance Review public consultation. Now, mainly for the benefit of members who are not on the panel and weren't at the last meeting, and for Councillor Rouse, who is helpfully present today, I'll just explain the way that we're dealing with the business. We're going through areas in what is meant to be increasing degree of difficulty, so it isn't a geographical order precisely, but we're following the list of areas which is Appendix 20 of the report. We will be starting today near to the top of page 164 with the boundary between St Stephen in Brannel and St Newan at Burngallow. Just to explain the way I'm intending to conduct the meeting, I'm going to call a 5-minute break every hour or so. At 5 o'clock, we will take stock of how much longer we're going to go on. We cannot go on beyond 6 o'clock today because a Teams meeting is limited to 4 hours. So when we pause today, we will resume on the 6th of October for the final meeting, which will have a morning and, if necessary, an afternoon session as well to conclude the business. What will happen on each item? I will just refer people to the page of the report, say what the recommendation is, hand over to the officers who will give a brief introduction and show any map that needs to be shown at this point, so we all understand what we're talking about, and I will then invite members to speak. As has already been said, if you can mark an X to show whether you wish to speak, and I'm generally going to call divisional members first if they are present. So with that, as I said, the first item we are considering today is the boundary between St Stephen and St Newan at Burngallow, which you can find on page 164 of the report, and I'll ask the officers to show a map and just introduce this briefly.
Thank you. I'll just share my screen and bring a map up. So this is from the consultation documents for St Austell, Mebegissi. I'll just zoom in a little bit. So this is map 10. The boundary between St Ewan and St Stephen in Brannel. The council recommendation from December was no change, and as you can see here, the orange line is the existing boundary, and the original proposed boundary is the red line down here. And I'm not sure how to introduce this one.
No, I think that's all. I think that's all you need to say. I think if officers keep introductions as short as simple as possible, and if there are complications, then you can clarify in response to questions. Is Councillor McLenning present today? No. I can say that as the divisional member for St Stephen in Brannel, he's been very clear throughout that he supports the boundary remaining as it is, and that is what the recommendation from officers is. Does anybody else wish to speak on this one? Okay. Sorry.
I'm putting my cross in. Yeah. I think just to remind everybody, we initially as a panel recommended the change, bringing together the whole of Burngallow, but obviously there were representations from St Stephen, and I think this was one that was overturned at full council actually and went out to consultation unaltered. So I'm not going to, even though it's reverting to a historic parish boundary, I'm not going to move anything on this occasion, but that's kind of the background. So.
Okay. One thing for the benefit of Councillor Rouse, which I ought to explain, we're only voting when there is a proposition which is contrary to an officer recommendation. So when members are clear what the officer recommendation is, and nobody is indicating that they wish to challenge it, we will then move on to the next item. So my interpretation of where we are on this debate is that everybody's happy, so the officer recommendation is supported. So we move on to the next item.
Understood.
Sorry?
Understood. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. The next item is the boundary between Treverbin and St Austell. This is the boundary at Mennacuddle Well, which is covered on page 90. And I think this one is now uncontentious, but the recommendation is for no change. So again, if officers can just show that one, please.
Okay, so here we have the map. Again, the blue line is the existing boundary. And the red line was the proposed boundary, and this was around the Mennacuddle Well and Woods area.
Councillor Cole.
The divisional member Sally is here if you want to go to her first, and then I can come in, Chairman.
Yeah, I think you can keep your remarks fairly short because I think you've got a pretty good prospect of winning.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, panel. Yes, I'm not going to ramble on. I've made my feelings on this pretty clear in the past, and I wholly support the officer's recommendation to leave things well alone. So I just wanted to reiterate that point. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Cole.
Yeah, I can follow by giving full support to that position, and to say that even though it's not his division, the other member from Treverbin Parish, Matt Luke, shares the same view, and hopefully this is a straightforward no change. Thank you.
Okay, everybody on the panel happy with that? Right, we move on to the boundary between Penchuan Valley and St Mewan. This is on page 94 of the report, paragraphs 17 to 19. And so again, I'll ask officers to introduce this one, please.
Okay, so this is around the Treg and Jeeves Lane area between St Mewan and Penchuan Valley. The proposal is to transfer this area here, outlined in turquoise, from Penchuan Valley to St Mewan. There was a second proposal from St Mewan Parish to transfer a larger area, including the golf course, but the recommendation that we put forwards is this sort of reduced area here that we see. This was agreed at council in December.
Okay, Councillor Mustoe is here, aren't you? And I'm sure you would like to speak on this one.
Yes, I'm here. Can you see me?
Yes, indeed.
All right. Yeah, this is not a contentious issue. I'd just like to confirm that with the transfer of land from Penchuan Valley Parish Council to St Mewan Parish Council, both myself and Penchuan Valley Parish Council agree with the officer's recommendation on this one.
Good. Any other comments from any panel members? So I take it we are content with this one. Stephen, did you want to speak at this point?
Yes, please, Chairman. Just simply to echo what Dan has said, because we did receive submissions from two Penchuan Valley residents backing St Mewan's Parish Council's proposal to include the golf course, but they raised no new issues. But I think it's just important that the panel are aware that there have been submissions during the public consultation period. So the recommendation still stands, Chairman.
Okay, thank you very much. Any comments from any members? No. In that case, we can move on And next is the boundary between Wadebridge and Egleshale. We're not talking about St Briac at this stage. We will come on to that later. This is the boundary between Wadebridge and Egleshale, and this is covered in the report on page 105, paragraphs 4 and 5. Okay. If officers would like to introduce that, please.
Thank you. Sorry, I was on mute. So we had this area to the northeast of Wadebridge. I'll just zoom out just to show you Wadebridge. As you know, it's the current boundary is the blue dotted line, and the proposed changed boundary is the turquoise line. And the area that we're talking about is currently industrial or fields and industrial land. And it will be within the A39.
Yes, can you just explain to us briefly, before I bring in Councillor Moorhead?
Do you want to interrupt you?
Sorry, could somebody switch their microphone off, please? Could you just explain briefly what the current position of the town council and the parish council is on that?
Andrew, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but currently the town council requested it. They originally requested a much larger area, but I believe after consulting with Egleshale, they reduced it to just within the A39, and I believe that Egleshale are accepting of this transfer.
Okay, I'm going to bring in Councillor Moorcroft next, but can I just say to any members of the public listening who are interested in this area, Councillor Moorcroft only became a councillor through a by-election at the end of last year, and really the earlier stages of the review were done without his involvement. So this is really the first opportunity that he's had to be fully involved. Over to you, Councillor Moorcroft.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yeah, I understand that the town council and the parish council have come to an agreement after some consultation, and yeah, I agree with that. The new boundary line follows the natural the A39 onto the A389, which is the new road which came in about 1992-93 time. So yeah, it makes sense to put that in place.
I'll just make one very brief observation from the chair, because I think a year ago we wouldn't have put anything concerning Wadebridge anywhere near the top of the middle of the order. It might have been even at the very bottom of all. I think it's a great compliment to people in the area and the local councils that we've been able to reach agreement on this. So I would hope that we as a panel will be able to support this now. Any comments from any other member?
Mike Thomas?
Yes, Mike.
Just to reiterate what you said, I fully agree what you just said there, and it is really good that we have got this sensible proposal in front of us.
Indeed. Thank you very much indeed. So does anybody else wish to speak or to suggest anything different than the recommendation before us?
Hi, Mark. Yeah, I would just like to say that I think this is a sensible arrangement after everything that's gone on, and I think we should go with this. It's really good.
Yeah. Could I ask people please to use the chat box with crosses? It's okay at the moment, but if we move on to later items which potentially might be a bit more difficult, I do want to be clear the order in which I'm calling people, but you know, so far so good. So we agree to support the recommendation on the boundary between Wadebridge and Egleshale, and we'll come on to St Briac later. Next, I'm sure we have Councillor Fairman present. The next item is the proposition for a new parish of Delabole out of part of the current St Teth parish. That's reported on page 123, paragraphs 25 to 29. Officer introduction, then I'll bring in Councillor Fairman.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. So currently St Teth is split into two wards of St Teth and Delabole. If it's helpful, I'll bring up the existing parish boundaries, sorry, the ward boundaries. So on the screen, sorry, it's such a small screen, but this sort of darker green line is the current parish ward boundaries, and the request is to split St Teth into two separate parishes. So we'd have the parish of St Teth and then the parish of Delabole, and this would be following, the parish boundary would be following this new line which has been devised and guided to us by Councillor Fairman. I think that's all I have there.
Okay, I'll hand over to Councillor Fairman.
Thanks very much, Chair, and you'll be pleased to know I'll save my but I would like to thank the panel for taking this recommendation forward. And I just want to give taking the only puts a handful of houses on a different side of the ward line. Some of them are holiday homes, and some of the houses I've contacted now, the residents, and they're quite happy to be to be moved from one ward to another. So I think the boundary is uncontentious. I've made some good progress with recruiting residents from Delabole to a shadow parish council. So I see the new parish council will be feasible in levels of support from people coming forward. And I'd just like to also reassure the panel that the current parish council has a very healthy level of reserves. And so I don't think either parish will be disadvantaged financially at the start of their journey as being separate parishes. Thank you.
Can you just be clear to us? I'm sure you've got these figures before you. We've got the boundaries. Can you just clarify what the number of councillors on both the new parish of Delabole and the new St Teth parish council would be?
Yep, certainly. So this is a recommendation from the existing parish council. Delabole has 1,400 residents, St Teth has about 700, and the recommendation is that Delabole has 9 councillors and St Teth has 7.
Good, and that's all part of the recommendation on pages 123 and 124. I'm sure everybody will be very pleased by this. Councillor Cole.
Just a quick question for Dominic, just for clarity. I'm looking at the division line between the two new parishes. I know there was some emails flying around in the last few days about tweaks to it. I just seeking clarity that what's in front of us on the screen is exactly what's been agreed, so there's no and there's no more likely tweaks coming. That's it, spot on. Yes.
Yes. So I apologise for a last minute wobble on this. So I did notice that there was another minor road we could have followed, which would have kept 3 houses at the same side of the ward line that they already are. But one of those houses is a holiday home, and I've contacted both the other residents, and they were happy to with this proposal that's in front of you. And so for elegance and everything else, and as if everybody was happy, we're going with this. And this is the map that has been presented to the parish council, and they agree with this.
Thank you. That's great clarity. Thank you, Dominic.
Yeah, that's a very important question, because we're really at the business end now. When it comes to Cornwall Council making orders and things, as I'm sure Stephen would advise us, we do have to get the detail absolutely right. Stephen, is there anything you wish to say at this stage? Again, it might just be helpful, again, for the benefit, just to remind everybody, if this goes through council, which I'm sure it will, just what happens then as regards forming the new parish council.
Yes, certainly, Chairman. I have been liaising with Councillor Fairman on this. The next stage really is for the new parish and the existing parish to liaise, because what will have to happen is that Delabo will have to set a budget for the ensuing year, and that will be done by a shadow parish council, which will be set out in the order. But in essence, my advice is always that the divisional member would be on that, possibly chair it, depends upon other things, and then the people there would then formulate a budget for the following year, and obviously liaise with St Teth as to the existing budget and the disaggregation. And also, and Councillor Fairman referred to this, the order also deals with the transfer of assets as well as liabilities. So therefore, again, it would be helpful if there was agreement between St Teth and Delabo as to the assets that would transfer in terms of whether it be allotment sites or whether it be money, or and as well as contracts that exist which cover the Delabo area. So the important thing really is to have coordination and liaison, and there's lots of other things behind the scenes that has to happen, but the essence is that we know what council we're working to, what boundaries we're working to, and what draft budget we're working to. If that helps.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so everybody's clear about the implications, I hope, and what the proposition is in detail. So any other comments or propositions from panel members? No. Right, we now move on to a couple of issues relating to Dobwalls and Trewidland. The first one of which is the boundary between that parish and the parish of St Keen, and that is covered on page 126 and 127 of our report, paragraphs 7 to 9. And I think this is a bit complicated, but I think we're going to be told both parishes are seeking the same thing. Anyway, Dan, if you could give us an introduction to this one, please.
Absolutely, I'll attempt to go through this. So hopefully you're aware of the current situation. So Dobwalls and Trewidland is a parish which is currently warded. The warding has been will be changed from the electoral review for 2018-2019. So I've just put on the previous ward areas. So this is currently what's happening, and then as of 2021, if nothing changes from this review, it would be split into 2 wards still, but with Dobwalls taking over this larger area, and Trewidland this area down here. Moving on to this this proposal. The proposal here is that Dobwalls would split from Trewidland, so there would be one single parish of Dobwalls, and the Trewidland ward would join with St Keen. I don't know if you can see that. And so the new St Keen would become St Keen and Trewidland, with 2 wards of one with St Keen and one with Trewidland. And the boundary between Trewidland and Dobwalls would follow the electoral division down this area here, which I believe, well, there we can see there, I think it's the road. I think that's all we need to say. Dobwalls and Trewidland is currently regarded as a protected parish due to those changes from the electoral review. And I think that's it. Maybe if anyone else can jump in if I've missed something out. Oh, sorry. Just to let you know, St Keen is happy to accept Trewidland, and yeah, I think that's all the extra information we need.
Okay. Does anybody wish to speak on this one? Either anybody on the panel or any other member present? I take it then everybody would be supportive of that. so that can go through. So that then brings us on to the name of Dobwall Parish, which obviously cannot be the current name because it won't include Trewidland. So we have that's covered also on page 127, paragraphs 10 and 11, and the recommendation is that it becomes Dobwall's Parish Council, which seems pretty logical. Any comments on that? I don't think officers need to explain that. I think we can follow that one. Any comments on what would just be Dobwall's becoming Dobwall's Parish Council? No, I'd have been disappointed if we'd spent half an hour on that. So Dobwall's and Trewidland parish name is covered. We just sorry, I jumped over the St Keen parish name, and that's on page 135, paragraphs 58 to 60. So the enlarged parish would be named St Keen and Trewidland. The number of parish councillors would increase to 7 to 9, and it would be warded with a St Keen ward and a Trewidland ward. And we're being recommended 5 councillors for the St Keen ward and 4 for the Trewidland ward. Dan, do you wish to add anything to that? You know, the map still shows what we're talking about, but is there anything else relevant to that needs to be mentioned?
No, I don't think so. We looked at the projected electorate, and that's where the proposed number of councillors came from. And also, just for your information, the electoral division boundary skirts down the St Keen Trewidland boundary. That's one of the reasons why we kept the warding there, because you'd have the parish split by an electoral division.
Okay, that all looks good. Any comments from anybody?
Can I add to that, Chairman, please?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you. The only reason why I want to add something is because the split of the councillors between the wards was a mite contentious at first, because St Keen's original proposal was that it was split 7 to St Keen and 2 to Trewidland ward. But as Dan has said, having looked at the electorates and using electoral ratio, it looks as though the electorate of St Keen ward will be 380 and the Trewidland will be 261. So it looks as though a fairer split would be 5-4. But I just need to say to you that that's not wasn't what was originally wanted, Chairman.
Do we know what the 2 existing parish councils think about that?
Well, it's only St Keen really that has made any comments, and that was what they proposed, as I said, 7-2 originally. Then it split to 6-3, but arithmetically 5-4 is more accurate.
Yeah, I would have thought we have to follow the numbers because that is what the Boundary Commission would do. Andrew, can you add to this?
Only in answer to your question, Mr. Chairman, about the parishes being in agreement about it.
And they are?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, any comments from any members, whether on the panel or not? Everybody happy? Right, we'll now move on to the boundaries affecting Lanson, St Thomas and St Stephen's. So there's a number of issues here. The first one of which is the boundary between Lanson and South Petherwin. This is discussed on page 144. And I think we have Councillor Painter with us, which will be helpful. Could I ask just for, when officers have got the map, there are 4 different issues, but if we try and do them one by one, I think that will be easiest. So the first one is the Lanson South Petherwin boundary.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. So there were two separate proposals for the Penny Gillam estate between South Petherwin and Launceston. So Launceston, from this map, wanted to take the whole of the Penny Gillam estate, excluding these 6 properties, so that the estate would be within one parish. And likewise, South Petherwin also wished to take the whole estate, so that the estate would be in a single parish. After many discussions, the agreement wasn't found between them, and so the recommendation was kept at no change between these boundaries. I don't know if it helps, but here's the interactive map, as you can see here, without the lines drawn on it. So the Penny Gillam Industrial Estate crosses the parish boundary there.
Yeah, there obviously is a logic to bringing it all into one parish, one or the other. Equally, there's a logic for leaving things as they are. Councillor Painter, do you wish to comment on that one? Maybe not. I know he mainly wants to talk about the South Petherwin boundary. Stephen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, my signal's a little bit intermittent. Yes, I think this is not within my division, although it's adjacent. I think it's fair to say that the process generally of agreeing boundaries around Launceston has been difficult because of the way the town council went about it originally and tended to put people's backs up in the various parishes. So they've been unable to come to a sensible resolution. From my point of view, I think either way would work. Clearly you've got Councillor Burden at one end and then Councillor Farrington at the other end, but then you've got obviously the parish and the town council that haven't come to an agreement. So I think it would make sense to go one way or the other. I think my personal view, I guess, because the properties were within South Petherwin, that it might sit more sensibly if it was within the parish, although other industrial estates are within the town. So sorry, I'm not being very decisive, but I guess it's not within my jurisdiction, and perhaps is something that will get raised at full council. But it is disappointing that there hasn't been agreement made locally, because that would make everybody's lives a lot easier. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to put you on the spot because I know it's another of the issues you wanted to speak about. I've just been checking. Councillor Burden isn't in attendance. I have had some emails from him, which if I could, for those of you, we all know Councillor Burden, and I can say they are typical Councillor Burden emails in that he's been a bit concerned about conspiracies to push changes which are not wanted through, and I think he would probably be supportive of the status quo. Councillor Kenny.
It seems to me, not knowing the area at all, that this is one where there is total disagreement. Would it not be better to defer this one to the next council? So that because if we make a decision either to change or not to change, there's going to be some people who are unhappy. So I would have thought this was one we could put off to the next council. And I'm happy to make that as a proposal if that would help.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I'm just going to see if anybody else disagrees with that. So because we haven't got either of the members here. It has been contentious and perhaps hasn't had the amount of debate it needs. Stephen.
Yes, thanks, Chairman. Just to emphasise that we've received 3 submissions as a result of the public consultation. One was from South Petherwin Council itself, which supported Cornwall Council's recommendation, and 2 from local residents. We have received nothing, as far as I'm aware, from Launceston Parish Town Council itself, and so therefore they don't seem overly concerned about it. Is the only conclusion I can draw.
Yep, that's probably a fair comment. I think it's difficult to make new changes on the hoof, because that could be unfortunate. So I'm actually sympathetic to what Councillor Kenny is saying, that, you know, we may well have to push a number of issues beyond those that we've already agreed to the next council. So that might be the best way forward. Does anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Frost.
Yeah, just on this, I wasn't going to bother to speak, but when we had the public consultation, I do remember I said to the chairman of South Pedderwin, well, if you want to unite it, would it be a big deal if you put the whole estate in South Pedderwin parish? And I remember at the time the representative from Launceston Town Council was kind of like, well, yeah, we wouldn't have a problem with that. And then the chairman of South Pedderwin just said, oh, we might as well just keep it the same, don't worry about it. And I kind of think it's probably best to leave sleeping dogs lie with this one, because it doesn't, whether it's all in South Pedderwin parish or whether it's all in Launceston parish, it doesn't really mean anything, because it's all industrial estate.
Okay, Councillor Thomas.
Yes, I agree with very much what Councillor Foster said. Out of interest, why were those houses on the left-hand side, as shown us earlier, that's it, why were those going to be excluded or requested to be excluded?
I'll try and answer that for you. They were consulted prior to the stage 3 consultation period, and they were just against moving from the rural parish to a town council area. It's, as we said, I think it was 5 homes, and they consulted with each of the homeowners, residents, and they were all against, and they all wrote letters in to confirm that.
Well, it looks like we haven't got any choice but to defer to the next council. But to me, it looks logical that certainly the industrial estate should be all joined up. But I think the only thing to do is to leave it to the next administration.
Can I seek some advice about procedure? If we decide no change, and so in effect endorsing the officer recommendation, we don't have to have a vote at this stage, and that can be picked up. If we want to defer it to the next council, do we have to vote on that now formally, or would that be part of the general recommendation at the end?
Unless Steve wants to come in, Chairman, we did discuss this before the meeting, and we did take the view that it will be better to actually have a formal record at this stage, so that then you can vote en bloc at the end of the third meeting. But the only thing I could add that would be helpful would be that if you decided to go with the recommendation, then of course that would conclude the review as far as that part of the area is concerned. And then should you wish to reopen it at any future time in the new council, then of course you could do if you wanted to look at Launceston on the whole, as a whole.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go back to Councillor Kenny then. Do you wish to move as a proposition that this particular issue, this is the Launceston South Pedderwin boundary at Pennygillam, that be referred to the next council? Is that your proposition?
That is my proposition, yes.
Is there a seconder for that? Does anybody wish to second that? Councillor Thomas, were you wishing to second?
Yes, happy to do so, reluctantly.
Okay, right. In that case, we have our first roll call vote on this. So the vote is, Councillor Rouse, what would you like to say?
That was just to second it as well, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, right, we'll have, so this will be the first roll call vote, and there may be a number today and probably a lot more on next week. So Steve, if you can conduct, so the proposition is to refer this item, the boundary between Lanson and South Petherwin, to the next council.
Thank you. So I'll just do a roll call. If you can just say for or against. Councillor Bastin.
For.
Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Cole.
For.
Councillor Formosa.
For.
Councillor Frost.
For.
Councillor Kenny.
For.
Councillor Moorcroft.
For.
Councillor Rouse.
For.
Councillor Thomas.
For.
And Councillor Wood.
For.
Thank you, Chair. I can confirm that was unanimous.
Thank you very much. Now, the next Lanson issue is the boundary with St Thomas, which is on page 145, paragraphs 15 and 16. That explains it. And then again, the recommendation is no change, but perhaps we could have that one explained through the map.
So this is the boundary between Launceston and St Thomas the Apostle rural. We had received a larger request of transfer of land, which I don't know if you can see, followed this road along here to the very end. I think during the public consultation there was an amendment discussed. It hasn't been formally submitted to the council, but this was to extend the cemetery and include some land which has been earmarked for developments. I could actually bring up a different map if that helps. So this is a planning map now, and it's this red area here, the hatched red area. That was proposed informally. So I think that's where we left it. The officer recommendation is no change, as we haven't received any formal submission.
Yeah, this is a big residential site which was granted on appeal and has certainly started. I don't know, Adam, if you know how far advanced the development of that site has got now.
Thank you, Chairman. It is quite well advanced, as I don't believe anyone's moved in yet, but properties are almost finished. So perhaps around half the site developed, but it will be another couple of years until the site is completed. Again, there wasn't any formal agreement between the parish and the town council. And as a local member, certainly for the parish side, I would support the officer recommendation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Now, my recollection is that the feeling of St Thomas representatives, certainly at the public meeting at Tregadillet, the feeling of the rural council was quite strong. So, do any members of the panel or any other members wish to speak on this one? If there is no, so Councillor Cole.
I thought I was just worth making the point that if we've not actually received a formal request for something and it's like based on ad hoc conversations, I don't think we should be in a position to look at that in any place in Cornwall. It needs to have been a formal representation at the consultation. So I think what Adam has said is spot on, and then it's best to stick with the officer recommendation of no change.
Okay, does anybody on the panel disagree with the officer recommendation for no change? No. Okay, in that case we can move on to the boundary between Launceston and St Stephen. That's dealt with on page 145, paragraphs 17 to 19. And again, the recommendation here is is for no change.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. So we had this area here is to the east of Launceston, and we had the original submission, which you can see on the screen. This one went out to consultation. During the public meeting again at Tregadillet, the town council sort of proposed an amendment. I think it was what they originally wished for, actually, not the one that they submitted, which was a much smaller change. If I move to the interactive map, I might be able to describe it a bit better. I believe it came down this road here through Lower Goodmansley Farm and down to St Leonard's Lodge, and I believe the idea was that this would give a tidier boundary than the river at the bottom here. And however, we hadn't actually received another submission to sort of show that map. I think that's all we had. I believe St Stephen's by Launceston opposed any changes around the Dutton area.
Yeah. Councillor Painter, this is in your division, isn't it? I'm pretty sure it is.
Yes, yes, indeed, Chairman. It is within my division, and I'm content with the officer recommendation for no change. Thank you.
Yeah. For what it's worth, I did actually venture up last year and had a look, and I must admit, I thought this was the weakest of the arguments that the town council were making. It really would extend well into the countryside, so I wouldn't support this. Councillor Kenny.
Just a comment that I like boundaries along rivers because they don't tend to change rather than along roads. And this boundary is pretty much along the river, is it? So I see no reason to change.
Good point. Okay, so the recommendation is no change to this boundary between St Stephen's and Lanson. Anybody wish to propose anything different? Right, the last one is the boundary between South Petherwin and St Thomas, which is on page 147, paragraphs 32 and 33. And this is about the boundary at Tregadillet and Trebersey. Dan, you could just talk us through this one.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. So the parishes are in agreement here. So the proposal is to move the current boundary between St Thomas and South Petherwin. The current boundary here is in the blue dotted line, which goes through Tregadillet, and move it to we call it the new A30, but the existing A30. And I think it was agreed that this would this is a good boundary to use. So I think that's all we need to know about that one.
Okay, Councillor Painter, I think this is the main reason that you came along today.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, there's an area within my division as far as the St Thomas parish. There has been agreement between the parishes, and it was complete nonsense. The residents, as you can see, that lived along the old A30, albeit the new A30 came in the 1980s. It's still the new A30. So it makes absolute sense to move the boundary to the substantive dual carriageway, because you've got a load of houses that would have to travel more than 3 miles to get to their parish. Certainly the parish hall for electoral purposes, and none of them supported that, and everyone was happy with moving. So hopefully non-controversial, happy to go with the officer recommendation to make a change. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good. Any comments from anyone else? Any counter proposition? No. So that recommendation we support, so that is a recommendation for change. So that deals with that. That also takes us through my category 3, which brings us on to category 4, which means we go back to the west again and then start to work up Cornwall. What I'd like to do is the first one is Ludgvan and St Earth, which is an issue which is self-contained from what follows. There's then a lot about Perranathno, Marizai and St Hilary. What I'd like to do is take Ludgvan and St Earth, and then we'll have a 5-minute break after that. So you can find this on page 13, paragraphs 7 to 11. This one is a bit complicated because I think there've been quite a few representations, certainly from St Earth Parish Council, and I know the local Cornwall councillor, Councillor Pascoe, is here, and he can help bring us up to date. So if I ask officers to introduce that.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Let me just move that one out of the way. So the proposition that went to public consultation is, as we can see it on the map. So you would see this area of Cannons Town and this sort of top section, the southwestern area of Rose and Grouse transferred from St Earth to Ludgvan. Since the public consultation, another map has been drawn up, and I'm going to put this on the screen. I believe this is the one that went into the appendix, although it may have had a small amendment. So the proposition here would be that Cannons Town, this area down to the bottom left of the picture, the homes along the, is that the A30 again? These homes on the edge would transfer into Cannons Town, and these homes on the top right for Rose and Grouse would transfer into St Earth. So basically you'd have both sides of the properties on both sides of the road being within the same parish. I can go back to the sorry, and there was a third proposal from St Earth, which included many of the fields to the north of this image transferring to St Earth. However, in consultation with the parish council, they were happy to follow this map here. I believe if this map was in the appendix, the only change would have been this additional home up here, which would be transferred to St Earth.
Yeah, the map is on page 24, although, as you said, it's not exactly the same, but it's close enough for us to understand. Okay, Stephen, I think you want to add to that.
Only a little bit, Chairman. It's just simply that the report itself on page 13 at paragraph 8 refers to 9 submissions. There were in fact 69 submissions, which I think it's important to just correct the record, but otherwise Dan set out the position.
Okay, can I just check with members of the panel that you follow what's been shown so far? Good. Councillor Pascoe, what would you like to say to us, please?
Councillor Pascoe, you might be on mute. We can't hear you at the moment.
Is that better?
Yes, yes, it is. You are. Right. You're coming over loud and clear now.
Lovely. As the Cornwall councillor representing St Earth, I would like to let the panel know that I fully support the changes that the officers are proposing to the St Earth Ludgvan boundary, which is closely aligned in terms with the community and households with the St Earth proposal. I am aware that there are substantial public support for this recommendation, which was confirmed by feedback received during a public consultation period. The community of Rose and Grouse identifies strongly with St Earth, and this new recommendation will align Rose and Grouse with St Earth. So one exception is the property of Treedale Lodge, which falls just outside the new boundary. proposed, and this property needs to be included as it is clearly falls within the Rosenkrantz community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I just ask officers, I don't think we've heard from Councillor Elliott, who is the councillor for the Ludgvan area, and can you just clarify if there's anything either from him or from Ludgvan Parish Council? Yes, I'm Andrew.
We know that both parishes have looked at this new proposal, and it's currently the Ludgvan clerk is putting it to parish council, but they won't be meeting until the 14th of October.
Right.
So well, they have deigned not to comment at the moment, other than they stand with their original submission and comments. So we have no update from Ludgvan at all.
Right. Yeah.
So just to add to that, Chairman, of course, if the meeting is on the 14th of October, then that can be taken into account if necessary at the council meeting on the 3rd of November.
Only if Cornwall councillors propose amendments.
Of course.
We are formulating a set of recommendations which will go to council. I must admit, it constantly frustrates me how bureaucratic and rigid parish councils are compared with Cornwall Council, but I gather that's the law. Though the law really does need to bring them up to date. Councillor Kenny.
Yes, so if Ludgvan disagreed, I would be saying let's defer it. So are we in the position of being able to approve this proposal at the moment and then changing the proposal at Cornwall Council to defer it if the parish council then objects?
Well,
does that fit the protocol?
Not quite. Can I be absolutely clear? Because whatever in our collective wisdom we agree, in the last meeting, this meeting and the next meeting, the vice chairman and I will be put in the position of having to propose and second it at council. If it is to be amended, it can only be amended because of amendments that come from Cornwall councillors. What I don't think we can do as a panel is say, well, we've come to this decision, but if parish X tells us something differently between now and council, we're going to rethink our recommendation. I don't think we can do that. I think they've got to use their Cornwall councillor if they disagree. That's just my opinion, and it's only because we've got to keep this process moving. Otherwise, we're in danger of being blocked at the final fence when it comes to full council.
No, that's my point exactly. That,
yeah.
I wasn't suggesting we put an if in our recommendation, but just that if we recommended, is this one going to be whatever the change is, that some Cornwall councillor could jump in at Cornwall Council and propose deferring.
Well, they can propose deferring, or they can propose reversing.
Yes.
You know, I'm pretty, you know, I don't think you have to be that clever, and I don't claim to be that clever, to look at some of the items which will be coming up before 5 o'clock, where Councillor A will be saying something, Councillor B will be saying something different. One of them will win. The one who loses will probably try to propose an amendment at council. So, you know, and I think it's really up to Ludgvan to liaise with their Cornwall councillor to press an alternative.
But the point I'm making is that at some stage, if they disagree, then Ludgvan's view will be heard, because yes, their Cornwall councillor will come in with it, in which case yes, I'm content.
That's right. Dan, I'll bring in the officers, Dan and Stephen, and then Mike Thomas. Dan.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I just wanted to raise an email that I actually received from Councillor Elliott. So I sent the map that we have on screen to Councillors Elliott and Pascoe, along with the parish councils, and Councillor Elliott's response to me was that he would support this proposition here.
That's helpful. That's very helpful to be told that. Stephen.
Nothing to add to that, Chairman. I've just seen the email, Chairman.
Councillor Thomas.
Well, there we have it. It's all sorted out. There's not much for me to say. I mean, I think what Councillor Lionel Pascoe said makes perfect sense. I know this area very well, and I would concur with his view that Rose and Grouse looks to St Earth, and certainly looks more to St Earth than towards Cannons Town. I think he's made some really brilliant contribution here. So I have no problem with what it set out.
Okay, now, does anybody disagree with the principle that we make this transfer of land between Ludgvan and St Earth? No. Can I have some advice then from officers in that, is that covered by your recommendation on page 14 of the report? Does the recommendation need to be tweaked a bit, or do we have to vote on something now?
Just checking on the wording, Chairman.
Because strictly, it isn't absolutely the same as map 5.0A.
No, exactly. Can we? I was just wondering, Dan, whether or not we can put a number on the map that you have on the screen now, and then just amend the recommendation to refer to that map.
Yes, we can. So this map is labelled 5B.
5B. Okay.
Okay, that's the easiest for us as councillors because it means we haven't got to vote now, doesn't it?
Right. Yep.
So in effect, if we look at page 14, recommendation 6.2, then it's really in the third line. It's not map 5.0A, it's map 5.0B, or whatever this map is closed.
We also have the opposing map in the other report, which is labelled 2A, I believe. So again, we would have to update the recommendation there to be 2B.
Which is what we will do, Chairman. So.
Okay, so can I just ask members collectively, are you happy to agree that is what the recommendation will be to council, and we leave it to officers to tidy it up a bit? Councillor Kenny.
No, I think if you start mucking around with numbers of maps, we have to vote for the, we'll only take a few minutes, but I think I agree with 5B, is it? But I think we should vote on it, not sort of allow officers to go around and change the recommendation in the background.
Okay, I'm all in. I'm perfectly happy with as many votes as necessary for absolute clarity. Councillor Cole.
Yeah, I think I'd go with that. I was thinking we need to write into the minutes that we changed the map, but it's probably cleaner if we just have a vote that we're substituting one map for another to show that we've made a tweak in the meeting. I think that's probably as clean as you can get, and it's worth the vote. So,
in that case, do you want to do the vote on both maps?
No. Well, again, what I think I want is I think I want a form of wording which doesn't include a map number, but it's really, is it the map submitted by St Earth Parish Council? Who actually submitted the map with the boundary that we're now being recommended to follow? Where did it come from?
So that this map it was constructed based upon the two maps submitted to us, and this was passed around both parish councils. It was I guess a compromise map.
Yeah, you're not making it quite as easy as I was hoping for clarifying. What I'm going to suggest, actually, because I was going to have we're due for a break now. I'm going to break now. We'll start again at 3:15, at 6 minutes time, and we'll first of all vote on a recommendation on this item. That will give officers time to just get get this absolutely straight what we're voting on, but we will have a vote, I promise you all. Okay, so I think we've done well so far. So we will pick up again at 3:15. Thank you all very much. Can I suggest you turn your microphones off because the meeting is still being recorded and going out to the thousands of people listening. Okay, thank you very much. Right, is everybody back and willing to get going again?
I'm back.
Good, we have quality.
Yes.
We have quantity.
I've got to say, I'll go for quantity, Chairman.
Okay, right, now then, have officers used the natural interval productively?
We have indeed, Chairman. I have not written it out because there wasn't time, but if I can read it out, that would be helpful. That land be transferred from St Earth Parish to Ludgvan Parish, and I'm reading out from page 31, paragraph 49.
Right.
If that helps, that land be transferred from St Earth Parish to Ludgvan Parish at Cannons Town, and land be transferred from Ludgvan Parish to St Earth Parish at Rosengrouse, as shown in map 5B attached. And the reverse, of course, is paragraph.
Yeah, they're identical, aren't they?
They are identical, but we have numbered the maps differently, but that doesn't matter because we shall we shall use the same numbering for the paragraph 16 on page 14.
Okay, can you say that again, because I didn't really follow that.
Certainly, Chairman. Let me just find it. So we are saying that, let me just find it again, page 30, that land be transferred from St Earth Parish to Ludgvan Parish at Cannons Town, and land be transferred from Ludgvan Parish to St Earth Parish at Rosengrouse, as shown in map 5B.
But what is map 5B?
The one that was on your screen from Dan that he drew as a compromise map.
Okay. Are members content with that?
I think Dan.
No, I'm asking the question.
And I'm just saying it's on the screen, Chairman. It's in the chat box now.
Yeah, it strictly shouldn't be in the chat box. The chat box is only meant to be for asking to speak because the public can't see that.
Okay.
No, I just I just want to be clear that members are clear what they are voting on.
I'm clear.
Okay, if that's the case,
I'm
because
happy with that.
we are going to have another vote. So who is willing to propose what has just been read out to us?
I'll propose.
Seconded.
Okay, so that's proposed by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Councillor Thomas. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, everybody. Okay, so we now take a roll call vote on this.
Thanks, Chairman. If we can start with Councillor Bastin.
For.
Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Cole. For. Councillor Formosa.
For.
Councillor Frost.
For.
Councillor Kenny.
For.
Councillor Moorcroft.
For.
Councillor Rouse.
For.
Councillor Mike Thomas.
For.
And Councillor Wood. Councillor Wood. We appear to have lost Councillor Wood.
So what we do is we obviously have a strong majority for that.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, everyone's voted for, Chairman. It's just Councillor Wood, so it's going to be it'll go through anyway. But I'm not sure where Councillor Wood's gone, unfortunately.
No, is anybody who isn't actually involved with the meeting able to check with him? I know in other meetings it has been possible to contact members who've become lost.
Chairman, if you give me a second, I'll message the producer for the meeting and see if she can do that for us.
Great. Okay.
You're still shown as being on the meeting.
Anyway, I think we've resolved that. So while we're waiting, Dan, can you bring up the maps of Perranathno, St Hilary and that area? Because there's a series of issues that we're now moving on to.
Of course.
Just one observation I will make while that's happening. I was checking during the break the members who are present, apart from the panel members. It's very few indeed. I'm really surprised because I've given clear indications to the whole council what the sequence of debate is going to be. So I think if members are not present, we just have to continue in discussing their areas, whether they're here or not. I hope you would support me on that.
Yep.
Good. So now, the first one is the boundary between Perranathno and St Hilary, which is on page 19, paragraphs 49 to 51. Now, I know there's been a bit of correspondence from Councillor Nicholas relating to various issues of these issues. So again, perhaps if we can have this one introduced to us and any updates which are necessary.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. So hopefully you can see on the screen here we have, I'll just zoom out so you can familiarise yourself. We have Perranathno to the south and St Hilary to the north. The proposal and recommendation is that this area of Gears Lane be transferred from St Hilary to Perranathno. That's the recommendation that went out to consultation. Since then, we've received an amendment to that, which would request that Gears Cottage East and Little Providence also be transferred from St Hilary to Perranathno Parish. And just because I have it on a different image, just to give you an indication of what that looks like, I'll flip between the two. So this is the one on the screen now is the recommendation. And the second image is an amendment to that. I believe negotiations have happened since our meeting in December, the council meeting in December, and I understand that St Hilary accept the transfer of these properties outlined in turquoise to Perranathno, but they do not accept the transfer of the Gears Cottage East and Little Providence.
Right, and can I just clarify with you, that is, there's a parish boundary shown between Marazion to the west and Perranathno to the east. So if those additional properties came into St Hilary, their southern boundary would be with Marazion parish, not with Perranathno.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. It does lead us on to I think there's a couple of lines down, I believe. So there is another proposal which is mutually agreeable between Marazion and Perranathno. This turquoise area here would be transferred from Marazion to Perranathno. And if that was accepted, then the transfer of Gears Cottage East and Little Providence would make a lot more sense because it would join up with the amended parish there. So I haven't drawn this one in because it's only been received recently.
Yeah, I've been trying to deal with them individually, partly because I remember one reason Councillor Cole and I put this well down the batting order was that the debate became quite complicated about the detail earlier on when we discussed it the previous time around. And welcome back to Councillor Wood. We are glad to have you back safely. I know you've been busy, so that's fair enough. So I would like to try and deal with this one first. and it would be Councillor Kenny and then Councillor Thomas. Councillor Kenny.
I don't think I had my name down.
Well, perhaps it's still left in the previous debate.
I'm happy to say that I think it looks logical to include Gears Cottage in the new boundary, but if the parish is objecting, I have a problem with that. But it does look logical to include it.
So just to be clear, I think we've got options of no change, the more limited change, which is what is shown beneath the light blue line, and then the more extensive change, which brings in those additional properties and a bit of rural land further west. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you. This is an area I know very well. I used to live here. This area, the bit that Dan that you're drawing in now, can you confirm that that was something suggested by St Hilary, or was it Paranuthno requesting?
Thank you. So that's an amendment that's been received recently from Paranuthno, and St Hilary opposed this area being transferred. Right.
If I could carry on, Chair. There was a lot of disquiet about this at the meeting, and I think Councillor Kenny's view became the view that the panel members had at that time, that the area below the turquoise line to the dotted line was a sensible transfer, and the other bit, which is now coming in as another request, was not mentioned before. This is completely new, as Dan has said. So I'm a little bit surprised at that. This really has muddied the water, because St Hilary certainly was very antagonistic to losing any, even though that we felt there was a logical transfer, which I support.
Okay, Councillor Cole and then Councillor Frost, and we will see where we are then.
Yeah, I'm looking at the new proposal and kind of think it's coming a bit quick, and with the St Hilary opposing it, I'm uncomfortable with it. So I'm at the moment thinking there's the two options we've got is to go with the area already in the turquoise that we were told St Hilary are now accepting of, or we refer it to the next council to get a better grip on it. Possibly the former is best, but certainly I'm not comfortable with the new area popping up at this late stage.
Thank you. Councillor Frost.
Yeah, it's just a quick question, really. I'm not sure if it's been said or if I've missed it, but what was the rationale for putting the amendment and having Gears Cottage East in, and did St Hilary give a reason for their opposition? Because I kind of agree with Dick. It's a bit rushed. You would think if they wanted that area in, they would have brought that in at the first point. It's sort of far enough out not to be part of the village, but could also be close enough to be part of the village. So I haven't got any strong feelings either way. I just would like to know if there was any real rationale between the amendment and the opposition, really.
I think my recollection of this area, the whole area, was that the engagement between parishes didn't really start very early and was quite complicated. I haven't kept up to date with this either. What I'm just wondering, because I think I want to deal with the proposals individually, but not to formally vote on anything till we've done with all four. So I think at the moment, there are probably two choices: one for the lesser change and one for the bigger change. Andrew and Dan, do either of you wish to add anything at this point?
If Andrew's not going to add something, so we had received an email from Councillor Nicholas following this request for the additional Gears Cottage East, and her message, if I may read it out, says,
yes, please.
Thank you. Following on from the submissions on these properties and area in Gears Lane, I fully support this being brought into Paranuthno Parish. These are accessed via Gold Sydney, and clearly consider themselves to be part of that community. It is a small boundary change that would not impact on anyone else and makes logical and common sense.
So she is the local member representing all three of the parishes involved here. She is supporting this late change, isn't she? That's what you're saying to us, Dan.
Sorry, thank you. Yes, that's correct.
Right. Does that influence the way anyone is thinking? Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, I'm sorry to come back again, but I was very supportive of the one that's recommended, but I feel that the views of St Hilary at the time were so strong about the historical boundary that we argued, or it was argued to us, that the logical move was, as the Gulf Sydney expanded, to take in that area shown in turquoise. So I would find it difficult at this stage to support, although I can understand some of the logic of it. It seems to really be in the face of what St Hilary have accepted and having to give up some other land. I mean, to be quite honest, there really should be, and this is beyond the scope of this particular council, there should be a Gulf Sydney Parish Council, but that's another story. There isn't.
Yes, that is certainly another story. We haven't closed this one yet. Councillor Kenny.
Yeah, looking at the map, it makes logical sense. If the other bit's going to have both sides of Gears Lane, so should this, but I'm unhappy to do it when we know Paris is objecting. I hear what the Cornwall Council is saying, and I agree with her. It seems a bit daft to actually be deferring for two buildings. I think it might be, whatever we go for, we might be like the other one, that there's an opportunity at Cornwall Council for a Cornwall councillor to make an amendment either way.
Yeah,
I mean, if I was going for it logically, I would include, I would move the line beyond those cottages, but
okay. I thought this one might start to take a bit of time because it did last time. So really, we're in the position that the officer recommendation is to accept the change which is shown, bringing the bit of St Hilary to the south of the light blue line into Peranathno. So if there's no vote, that is what the recommendation to council will be. I think, having had this discussion, and you're all aware now of what is to come as regards the Marazion boundary, does anybody wish to propose anything which is different from just that smaller area coming in, bearing in mind, as Councillor Kenny has correctly said, it's up to the local member or anyone else to move an amendment when we get to full council. Does anyone wish to propose anything different from what we're being recommended? Councillor Frost.
Hi, sorry, Malcolm. I'm not proposing anything different, but I would be led by the people that live in that area, because what I'm thinking, that we stick to our recommendation, and then if Councillor Nicholas wants to speak to those residents, and those residents confirm, you know, that actually it makes sense for them to be in with Gold Sydney, then we can make that determination at full council. I think if they want to put the legwork in to argue their case even further, then they can crack on and do that, and we'll just crack on with our recommendation, and then at full council we can do what needs to be done.
Okay, so you're going along with the recommendation. Does anybody not go along with the recommendation? Because if not, I'm going to accept it, and I'm going to conclude that we've accepted it, and then move on to the next bit of this area. Okay, that will be our recommendation to council then, that the area to the south of the light blue line is transferred, and that's what the recommendation yeah, because I actually will bring in the officers once again, because the officers, if you look at the top of page 20, the officers say, unless further agreement is reached between the two parish councils. regarding the amended proposal from Peranathno, well, there doesn't seem to have been further agreement. There are still different ideas. Then that the transfer take place, and that refers to the land that is shown on this map, isn't it? So if we were to agree to that, that would be consistent with the officer recommendation. Can I just have a yes to confirm that?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so in that case, we've dealt with that one. So I think we now come on to the next issue here, which is the Marazion Peranathno boundary, which is described on page 15, paragraphs 22 and 23.
So I'll just quickly describe what we have on the screen. I don't have any other sort of background as to the justification for the transfer, but I understand that Marazion and Peranathno both agree to this transfer, and it's this area again in light, what do we call it, light green, turquoise.
Yeah.
And that would transfer from Marazion to Peranathno.
Okay. Any comments on that? Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, I think this is perfectly sensible and fully support the recommendation.
Okay, everyone willing to accept Councillor Thomas as the closest to a local member that we have today?
Yes.
Good. So that's Marazion Peranathno. The next one is the Ludgvan Marazion boundary, and that is on page 12, paragraphs 5 and 6.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I'm just trying to find the image in the public consultation document. So the officer recommendation was for no change, and this was the recommendation that came out of council in December. Let me just zoom in a sec. So this is an area of special scientific interest. Here we go. And it's an area defined by the main road, and then it comes down not via the sort of link road, but through the fields and farmland there down to the coast. And I believe it includes the old railway station.
Mm-hmm. So this is in Ludgvan parish now, and the recommendation is to keep it in Ludgvan parish.
That's correct. So the proposition was that this area will be transferred from Ludgvan parish to Marazion parish. Thank you, Malcolm. The recommendation from officers is that it remains with Ludgvan.
And are there any residential properties at all in it, or is it all rural land?
I believe there are some residential properties.
Yeah, there's something just to the east. Yeah.
Yeah, so there is a couple.
Couple of farms.
And I think this is a care home. I may be incorrect, but it's not a residential property as such.
Okay, Councillor Thomas again.
Yes, I remember this well. This is was a contentious one between the two members, I think, if my memory serves me right. Yes, it is a care home, or was a care home. I'm pretty sure it still is. I think we're probably best to do nothing at this stage. I can see a sense of logic of Marazion taking some of the land towards the railway line, but there's not an alternative bound. There's been no negotiation, to the best of my knowledge, between the two parishes, and I think at this stage it's probably something that can be looked at in the future. So I would support the officer recommendation to do nothing.
So you would support no change on?
Sorry,
on
no change. Not no
yes.
change. Do nothing doesn't sound right, does it?
Masterly inactivity, I would call it.
Yes, but yes, I think in this case, I would agree fully.
Yeah, because that is distinct from wanting to refer it to the next council. I think that would be quite a strange decision for a piece of land with these characteristics. So if we're saying that we don't want to make the change at the moment, so we accept the officer recommendations. Dan.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. So we did receive an email yesterday from Councillor Nicholas, and if you don't mind, could I read that out, the appropriate section to you? So she says, regarding the newly proposed boundary between Marazion and Ludgburn, if there is a new project to reopen Marazion Station, then that clearly is a Marazion identity, not Ludgburns. This would bring about new proposals under item 6 and clearly makes sense to support the boundary change. And that's where she's left it, but again implying that it relies upon the railway station being brought back into operation.
Councillor Thomas, Councillor Cole, then Councillor Thomas.
I think I agree totally with I'm struggling with this one. I think us recommending no change is appropriate. The argument about the railway station possibly being called Marazion because it's quite close doesn't actually wash to me. It's no different than calling St Morgan Airdrome Newquay Airport. It's still where it is in St Morgan. Doesn't make it any more Newquay than anything else in my view. So I think no change is the most appropriate thing. And also I think the boundaries being created there are not great and they're not as obvious as they might be. So I think this is totally the right decision.
Okay, I'm pleased that we've heard Councillor Nicholas's comments read out. But so the officer recommendation is for no change here. Does anybody wish to suggest anything different from that?
I think I'm still X. Am I still there?
Yes.
Yeah, I think if somebody had come along and suggested that the railway line be a boundary, then that would have been something perhaps earlier we would have considered. But at this late stage, it's not really appropriate, I think, to make that suggestion. But I think that would have been worthy of consideration. But I'm agreeing with myself and Dick Cole.
Good. Okay. Well, nobody is suggesting any amendments, so we will stick to the recommendation on that. So then finally, we've got the Marazion St Hilary boundary, which is on page 15, paragraphs 24 and 25.
I will attempt to find that in the consultation document. So again, this was this was not recommended to be changed from the officers. Here we are. This is the boundary between St Hilary and Marazion parishes. The request was to transfer the Plain and Gwarry and Gwellan, can I say villages, that area from St Hilary parish to Marazion parish. Andrew, I think it's in the report, but I don't believe we've received any support from local residents on this one.
No, we've had support from in support of the recommendation to have no change, but we haven't had anything from Marazion at all. I don't think. I'll just check. No, Marazion haven't submitted anything in the consultation process, whereas there was quite vociferous support for the recommendation of no change from individuals and the parish council at St Hilary.
So the recommendation remains no change. Does anybody wish to suggest anything different? No. So that concludes that. Now we move on to the boundary between Lanner and Redruth, and I've just checked who's present at the meeting, and none of the councillors from either Lanner or Redruth are present. Now, it may be that we're going faster than they anticipated, but I've tried on more than one occasion to give everybody an indication of the timetable, or certainly of the sequence. And you know, so even though we don't have local members present, we have discussed this many times. So officers, if you could give us an update. I think it's familiar to a lot of people. It's the boundary at the northern end of Lanner with Redruth.
Sorry, I'm just getting the maps up on the screen.
That's all right. Sorry.
If you recall,
we're making life a lot more difficult for you by going so quickly. I do apologise.
No, I like it.
What page is it?
Oh, sorry. This is on page 47, paragraphs 27 and 28.
So if you remember from some of the previous panel meetings, a lot of time was spent discussing this, and there were a couple of alternative proposals put forward. The original submission from Redruth Town Council was the one that we have on the screen here. So I understand this is at the top of Lanner Hill, coming into Redruth, and they proposed that the homes here would be transferred from Lanner Parish to Redruth. So during the meeting, there was an alternative proposal drawn out, which the local councillor said, I guess, submitted as an amendment, and that's what we have on the screen here. So it was a more modest request, but again, it was still opposed by Councillor Thomas. I believe that's where we left it. Andrew, is there any other pertinent information that I've missed out?
No, I don't think there is. There was an email yesterday from Councillor Thomas that reiterated the previous points made that preceded the council's original recommendation, but I don't believe there's been anything else.
So essentially the recommendation is for no change to the boundary between Redruth and Lanner. Councillor Kenny.
Yes, I remember the debate on this one. I mean, looking at it pictorially, it looks to make logical sense that those residential houses are actually part of Redruth, and the debate was all about the business on the slope that they had extended to, which is why they came in with this compromise about having the I can't remember why it was so special, but it was very special to the other. So I quite like the compromise that was proposed by whichever member it was. One got confused after several sessions, and I still think that is quite logical, because it does look to me like that the bottom bit is part of Redruth.
Yeah. Councillor Cole.
I mean, throughout it got quite complicated, didn't it, with sort of the moving line of what could or could not move. But even the compromise line that Councillor Kenny's just talked about, you've then immediately got housing off it, an extension along the main road, and then you've got Beauchamps Meadow, however that's meant to be pronounced. Clearly not Beauchamps, I'm sure, but and so yes, I kind of struggle with the logic a bit, and given the nature of the Thomas versus Thomas, if you like, I'm very content that the recommendation we made previously of no change should continue.
Does anybody wish to put a contrary view?
I've got my X there.
Oh, so yeah, sorry. Yes. Councillor Thomas and then Councillor Kenny again. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. I listened to my cousins Thomas and Thomas with great interest, and it's an area I drive through quite frequently because we don't have a train, so I have to go this way. And I cannot understand how this cannot be seen as Redruth. I really found it very difficult, and the original request was for that dotted line to go right down to where it says Lanner, but I mean that isn't Lanner. Lanner doesn't start until way down the road. So to me, the Sandy Lane compromise, to my mind, was a sensible way forward. But the feeling of the community has to be taken into account, and it would seem that a lot of effort has been made to gather their views, and I would like to see that boundary become along Sandy Lane, but I think it would be very brave to actually go down that road because I don't see that we would get the support from the community. So unless anybody is willing to propose it, I will have to go with what is recommended, but it isn't logical. The logical line, to my mind, is down Sandy Lane to what should have been a roundabout connecting up with 4 lanes. It's supposed to be a road at that roundabout going to 4 lanes, never was built. And that would have been a natural barrier, sort of barrier or boundary rather, to the southeast of Redruth.
Mm. Yes, I think to be fair, I think the panel have tried to be objective throughout, but I think they've also been influenced by who has come along to speak to them, and both at the public meetings and at panel meetings, and the way that they've put their arguments. And today we're just having to act in isolation on our own. Councillor Kenny, and then I'll ask if anybody wishes to propose anything different from the officer recommendation.
I am going to propose something different. I'm going to propose that we defer on this one because I don't think the no change is right. I agree with Mike. I think there's a logical extension to Redruth. I don't think we've got sufficient to make a decision to change it, so I think this one should be deferred to the new council, and that's what I'm going to propose.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that?
I'm prepared to second that, again reluctantly, because it would be I think it's a great shame because this panel has put an awful lot of work into this, and it strikes me that the logic here has been left. But I'm happy to second and send it on to some other people to look at.
Yeah, we have already referred quite a number of areas to the next council, and it may well be this isn't the last if that is the decision. Councillor Frost.
Sorry, a bit embarrassing because I'm at work. I was just with a customer, so I missed what the recommendation was. Could someone repeat that, please?
The recommendation, well, just to explain to you, we don't have any of the local members here today. The officer recommendation is for no change to the boundary between Lanner and Redruth, which is the decision that we've made before. Councillor Kenny is making an amendment to refer it to the next council.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Do you want to comment or not?
My only comment is I think you either change all of it or none of it. Doing half a job is a waste of time, in my opinion, because you've still got the same problem. It's just a smaller problem than it was before. So you either deal with the whole problem or deal with none of it.
So that means you don't agree with the recommendation?
No, I mean the recommendation is no change. So if you're not changing anything,
I see what you mean.
That's fine.
Yeah, okay.
I'm equally happy to defer it. I think the only recommendation, I feel the only recommendation or the only decision we should make is whether we put all of the residential area into Redruth or not. Splitting it down the middle is pointless, in my opinion.
Okay. Does anybody else wish to speak, or shall we go to a vote? We'll go to a vote. So the proposition, which we're not voting on because it's the officer recommendation, is for no change to the boundary between Lanner and Redruth. What is being proposed by Councillor Kenny, seconded by Councillor Thomas, is that we refer the issue to the next council. So I'll ask for a roll call vote to be taken on that.
Thank you, Chair. If we can start with Councillor Bastin, please. Sorry, I missed that.
Against, sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
Against.
Councillor Cole?
For.
Councillor Formosa?
For.
Councillor Frost?
For.
Councillor Kenny?
For.
Councillor Moorcroft?
For.
Councillor Rouse?
For.
Councillor Mike Thomas?
For.
And Councillor Wood, please.
For.
Thank you. Chairman, I can confirm that's been carried 8-2.
So that is referred to the next council. Okay. Right, now we come on. Sorry, the other issue relating to Lanner is the number of councillors, which is covered on page 47, 29 to 31, and the recommendation is to increase the number of councillors from 9 to 11, which is what the parish council are asking for. Everybody happy with that? Councillor Frost, I think you've asked to speak, is that right?
Yeah, sorry, it's just a bit of a hypothetical question. If we're referring the decision to the next council of potentially drastically reducing their population, will that affect their thinking on how many councillors they have going forward?
Well, I think my advice to you would be not to go there, because even if a big change in the boundary went through, it's still a relatively small percentage of the total population. If you think of the population of Lanner Village, and I think if a parish asked for more councillors, I think it would be very bad not to go along with that.
Oh no, that's I was just thinking out loud, just wondering if it was.
No, that's fine. No, I think everything should be thought through. So we will so basically we are agreeing with the increase in councillors that Lanner are asking for. Right, now we're now coming on to the Stithians St Gluvius boundary, and this has actually turned into one of the more complicated ones because there's been a bit of untoing and froing on that. So I'm going to ask if the map can be displayed and we can be talked through that. This is on page 49, paragraph 43, going over the page.
Right.
Can't see it in a minute. Could whoever's got their microphone on switch it off, please? Thank you. Dan, this is the first of what are written as there is more about St Gluvius to come, but this is the Stithians St Gluvius boundary.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. So it did get slightly complicated recently. So I'm going to first of all, I'm going to bring your attention to the consultation document. So there was a proposal from St Gluvius to transfer the area marked here in red to from Stithians Parish to St Gluvius Parish. I have to point out this map here shows two proposed changes. We're looking at the left-hand side between Stithians and St Gluvius. So the area here that we were looking at is majority is around Kennel Vale, which is a nature reserve, and there's some farmland around that. At the time, Stithians Parish Council opposed this change. Since then, hopefully I can bring up a different map. Since then, St Gluvius have come in with an alternative proposal, and I'll try and find that map. So it was. This is the map that they've provided to us. Hopefully you can get your eye in there. So the difference here is that originally the whole of Kennel Vale Woods Nature Reserve would be transferred from Stithians to St Gluvius, whereas this proposal takes in a smaller area of Kennel Vale. We've also received a letter from the freeholder who owns the Nature Reserve, Kennel Vale Nature Reserve, who supports the transfer of the Nature Reserve to St Gluvius. What we don't have at the moment is an indication of the remaining land, the landowner, whether they support the transfer or not. I think that's where we've left it. Andrew, I don't know if I've missed anything out.
No, other than we've asked them to clarify whether this is their final proposal or whether it just includes the Kennel Vale Nature Reserve, and also what predicated this request in the first place was that the access to the Nature Reserve is only through St Gluvius. So that's the main driver here, but we haven't yet clarified if they want that whole section north and south of Kennel Vale Nature Reserve or just the Nature Reserve now, and we're still waiting. Not that we've been waiting long, because the conversations have only really very recently taken place, but we're waiting for them to come back to us.
Right. I think we've got Councillor Williams with us.
Yes. Good afternoon,
Yes.
Chairman, and good afternoon, committee.
Could I bring you in now, because I'm sure you would like to give us your opinion?
Well, from the last time we spoke, the last time I had a chance to talk to the boundary committee, I did say I would go away and contact the landowner. We've done that, and the officer just confirmed that he has supported the aspirations of the parish council to take that within our boundary. It's the Kennel Woods, and the reason for this is we have serious problems with people, which we want the people to come and go into the sanctuary. It's a beautiful place to come, but we have got serious problems with parking, etc., and people on cycles, bicycles. We would like to do some work on it to make an area for people to visit it, but obviously we need to have it within our boundary to get any funding or what have you. And this do not affect the boundary of Stithians at all. There is no land grab, there's no housing involved. This is purely to try and protect the people who live in St Gluvius. And I would like to read this out a minute. The request now is a much smaller than the original submission. And the request is that only the public area that the reserve, which is managed by Cornwall Wildlife Trust. Both the trust and the landowner, Ross Williams, supports the parish council's request. Previously, the landowner objected, but this is not the case. And I think your officer confirmed that today, that he is in full support. And I would like to think that the boundary committee today would consider those adjustments to my last submission to you. So I'll wait for further comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think officers will help you in a minute with a map so we can clarify exactly what you're saying. But this has generated a bit of discussion at previous meetings. So I'm going to ask Councillor Kenny and Councillor Cole to speak. Councillor Kenny first.
Yes, I just wanted to ask Councillor Williams. I think it makes it clearer on this map that's now being displayed, but the other green bit that is below the nature reserve, it looks a fairly illogical place to cut it off. So what is it? What's the continuation? There's obviously water and a bit of green. What's the continuation of the nature reserve there? I mean, why would you want to stop there? Why wouldn't you go down to the presumably the road?
Well, the aspiration of the parish and the people who live in the parish is we need to do something, because we want the people to come to the nature reserve, and we only want the land, the woodlands. We don't want to take the larger area. We want a little small area of the nature reserve and the woodlands.
Yes, I understand that, but it's not a terribly logical place to have a boundary, whereas going down to the road and incorporating that, is it a reservoir or a lake or what, down to the road is, from our perspective, is more logical. So yeah. Is it just that you've made it shorter to make it more acceptable to Stithians, or?
Well, I mean, really and truly, Stithians can't get to it from their side of their boundary anyway, because everyone who comes to the wildlife park, they've got to come and go through our village in
No, Pete, I understand that. It's just that bottom bit, the bit with the water. Why isn't that included?
Why isn't it included? We don't want all of it. We only want the bit that affects the actual village. Stithians don't want us to have that part of it.
Yeah, no, I understand that. So is there a fence or something across there? Is there a boundary?
Well, yeah, it's all boundary walls. It's the hedges, yes.
Yeah, okay.
We're not actually taking any. There's no land grab, none whatsoever. And there's no precepts for housing, none of that. All we really want to do is to provide a safe place for people to park and for people to come and enjoy the wildlife park and the woodlands. It's a lovely place, and it's got a terrific history. And unless we can do something about putting in facilities for visitors, it actually congests the town, village, terribly. It's a real serious problem, and if we've got it within our boundary, then we can apply for grants to try and get hold of some land from one of the local people who got land in the area to provide some parking and a safe place for people to leave their bicycles and the children to walk.
Okay, Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Chairman. Could I have the map up that shows the revised request, please?
So, Councillor Cole, we don't have an image of just the nature reserve, but I can bring up the map, this map that was submitted.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. First off, we've heard that this is about the nature reserve, but doesn't take in any. Peter's just said it doesn't take in any domestic properties. But towards the very bottom, I think that's is that the farm called Tregoose? Yeah, that one.
That's correct. Yeah, that's Tregoose.
So I presume there's somebody there, and if you go further to the north, is that a couple small holdings or farms or something? So there are Sunny Quarter Cottage and was that Wood Oak Cottage?
Woodside Cottages.
Woodside Cottages. So there are actually now, it does actually include some domestic properties, which it didn't before. I actually know Kennel Vale very well, given that my archaeological background. I've actually done work in it. And obviously you've got archaeological remains that go right the way through. You've got like paper mills at the bottom, and you've got your gunpowder mills at the top. All of which are served off the same stream, the aqueducts, the quarries, the works. So, I mean, what Joanna Kenny said about where they've decided to split the Kennel Vale in half, again, to me makes no sense at all. So I cannot see, given all these changes, I can't see this is actually something that we can support today, this modified recommendation at all. Again, given that there's ongoing discussions and options, it may well be one that's worth deferral to the next council, but it's certainly not one we could approve today.
Does anybody else wish to speak? I will bring Councillor Williams back to respond to anything that has been said, and I just wonder, especially in the light of what Councillor Cole has just said, can you make clear to us again, Councillor Williams, where you think there has been agreement and where there isn't?
Well, we only won the actual the woodlands. You know, we did draw the line there because we've got another one coming up, further discussions later on in the meeting, where we've brought in a part of Cornwall, which we won't talk about now. But it was just really so we could just it would edge all that into the parish. Hello, have you got me?
Yes. Yep.
I mean,
I'm certainly listening.
What we need to do as far as the concerns of the parish council is the parking issue is a real serious problem. Now, if you want to draw a line around a property, so we are accused of land grab or reset grab, I probably would be able to accept that. It is really the woodlands is really the bit that we need, and you know that's what I would like you to consider today. If you feel that we're asking for property to be included, then I'm sure that I would speak on behalf of my parish council that they would be happy to agree to that. It's really the actual woodlands. That's what we need. Does that sound okay?
Well, it sounds clear what you're saying. Now, I'm just basically the recommendation is no change, isn't it? Can I just check with the officers? The recommendation still is no change.
That's correct.
Chairman, it is, Chairman, because we haven't got a map that would propose any different than original, and that was too big.
I'm not taking sides on this. I'm just trying to clarify where we are. Do you think that what Dan has been able to do on the basis of what Councillor Williams has said gives us a map that, if we were minded to, we could vote on as an alternative, or would you be uncomfortable with that?
The evidence that's been put forward by Councillor Williams is coherent and very self-contained. Where the boundaries are, I'm still not sure from the map, because what Dan has drawn on the screen, there's still quite a lot of grey area which is not included, and so I'm not sure whether that includes all the woodland. Councillor Williams may know, but or Councillor Cole, but it just doesn't seem as though it's particularly exhaustive.
Can I come back, sir, Chairman? And
yes, certainly.
We're not interested in anything more than to be able to manage the woodlands safely and to provide a nice environment for people to come. I mean, more and more people are coming to see this. It's the old dynamite factory was within the woodlands, and it's a real lovely, interesting place to come. And it's beautiful down there. And can I ask the members if we could come back and did a more defined map that you could consider it at the next boundary meeting?
Okay, can I just say as chair where I think we are, because there are a number of, I think there are 4 alternatives now. And if nobody proposes anything, the officer recommendation is for no change. There could be a proposition to agree a change today on the basis of what Councillor Williams has told us and shown us. We could decide to refer this to the meeting next week, or we could decide to refer it to the next council. So I think those really are the four options. And if we're to do anything other than go with the officer recommendation, which is for no change, then there has to be a proposition today. I'll ask Stephen though to comment. He may think that I haven't put that particularly well.
No, I think you put it brilliantly, Chairman. The officer recommendation as of now would be that you consider it on the 6th of October, having asked St Gluvius and Stithians if they could agree a boundary for area to be transferred, having regard to what Councillor Williams has said, where there is just a pure wish to have the woodland area transferred rather than any of the surrounding areas. That would then give time for there to be a discussion and a map prepared, which then members could decide on the 6th of October.
Right. Councillor Cole.
First, can I congratulate Dan for drawing a beautiful head of a dog over the top of Kennel Vale? Well impressed. I think this has got very, very, very confusing in that we started off talking about Kennel Vale, then we talked about the fact that there was a representation from St Gluvius to take 2/3 of the valley, but then also to take some farmland around it. The divisional member is talking about taking part of the Kennel Vale only, but not the farmland. This is quite a confusing situation, given the other ones that we've gone through today. I think to do this one justice, actually, this is one that should be referred to the next council, and I'll move that.
Okay. So just to clarify, I have a proposition from Councillor Cole for it to be referred to the next council. If it is seconded, I will put that to the vote, and if that is passed, that is what we've decided. If it's not passed, I will ask for if there is any other proposition other than the officer recommendation. So the proposition is from Councillor Cole for the issues covered under this item to be referred to the next council. Is there a seconder for that?
I'm happy to second that, Chairman.
That's Councillor Wood, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Does anybody else wish to speak on that? I think Councillor Kenny may do.
I was going to second it on the basis that I don't think 5 days is enough to allow Stithians to come back and make comments on that proposal. And I totally agree with Councillor Cole. I think splitting it down the middle of the woods isn't going to work. So I'm regretfully for the next council to sort out.
I think that's a very strong argument, and I must admit, I think referring for 5 or 6 days might send out a bad message for other issues which we're referring to council. If it was so simple that something could be sorted in 6 days, we ought to have finished the review a year ago. So
you concur with that.
yeah. Well said by very eminent predecessor. So can I ask for a roll called vote to be taken on the proposition for the issues relating to the boundary between Stithians and St Gluvius to be referred to the next council?
Thank you, Chairman. If we can start with Councillor Bastin, please.
4.
Thank you. Councillor Brown?
4.
Councillor Cole?
4.
Councillor Formosa?
4.
I believe Councillor Frost has given his apologies and left early, hasn't he? Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
No response. Thank you. Councillor Kenny?
4.
Councillor Moorcroft?
4.
Councillor Rouse?
4.
Councillor Mike Thomas?
4.
And Councillor Wood.
4.
Thank you, Chairman. That's been carried 9 votes to 0.
Okay, it's now 4:22. Can I just explain what I'm suggesting that we do and don't do? And I'm bearing in mind that Councillor Wood has to leave in a few minutes and that Councillor Frost has already left. I'm going to suggest that we continue to the point that we deal with Myla Perriner-Worthall, which is next, which will take a bit of time. Then the Penryn St Gluvius, Perriner-Worthall St Gluvius and St Agnes Chasewater issues, and then terminate the meeting there. And then the meeting next week, the St Austell issues will be the first ones to be dealt with, and then followed by the ones which we agreed at last week's meeting to be considered then. I think if we do that, the only areas apart from the deferred ones and St Austell that we won't have dealt with yet will be St Briac, Wadebridge and Liscard, Menheniot. So I think it will be possible then to get through the rest of the business in a meeting starting at 10 o'clock in the morning. Councillor Cole.
Just as people are probably listening in on this, I just want clarity in terms of the running order for the third meeting, in particular the ones that we deferred to that meeting from the bottom of the list, whether, because I couldn't remember whether we said they would be on first or they'll be on last. I think it's just been good to be crystal clear and we can send that message out to other members.
Okay, I was going to write around, but I think what we've decided is the first item on the agenda for the next meeting is going to be Newquay Colon, which is going to be simpler than it might have been, because as I understand it, there was a two-part issue, one to decide what is straightforward and to refer the rest to the next council, then to consider the remaining items in this list which we haven't dealt with, and then, because we now know that we will have time to complete the agenda, the two other outstanding issues, which are Helston, Wendron and the other one which is slipped my memory for the moment.
Perrins Abulo and Cubert.
Perrins Abulo Cubert, how could I? Those will be at the foot of the agenda, but the intention will be to deal with all of those at that meeting, and it will be a meeting which may have an afternoon session as well as a morning session. Is everybody content with that as a way to proceed, or does anybody have a different idea?
Just a question, Malcolm.
Yes.
We're aiming at a full council meeting dated, is it the beginning of November?
It's the 3rd of November. But we cannot have any more. I think Stephen in particular will confirm that we really cannot have any more time, because the minutes of the 3 meetings have to be written up, and then all members have to be advised of the recommendations and given an opportunity to submit amendments to council in advance, like we did. So to be honest, if we end up getting through it all, I will be very pleasantly surprised. When we started, I didn't think we would, and I think the panel have done a really good job. Stephen, do you wish to add anything as regards advice that you would want to give us?
No, I think we are still aiming for the council meeting on the 3rd of November, and there just simply wouldn't be a time to put another panel meeting in and give notice and all the rest of it after the 6th of October. And the 3rd of November is quite crucial because we're teeing up with the Local Government Boundary Commission for England and our council tax colleagues and our electoral services colleagues to make sure that those that you do want to go ahead on the changes can be implemented in time for April and May next year.
Yeah, but just to be absolutely clear, if we go along with what I'm suggesting for next week, it doesn't mean we have to make a decision. I suppose, to put it better, the decision could still be to refer something to the next council.
Oh, of course. Yes, of course. Yes. Yeah.
So is everybody content with that? I'm saying that partly so that members who are present know what we are going to deal with and what we're not. Okay. Is that all right? Do members want another short break, or are you happy to carry on?
Carry on.
Carry on, right. Okay, right, we now come on to Myler and Perranawirthal. And I think I'm right in saying both the divisional members for the two parishes are present. Thank you, Councillor Wood, for your contributions today, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, Chairman. Cheerio, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Okay.
Bye, John. Bye, John.
Right. Introduction to the Myler Perranawirthal issue, which is on page 55, paragraph 25. Running over the page, and the recommendation is for the area which is shown on the map to be transferred from Myler to Perranawirthal. We're basically talking about Perran Foundry. Dan, if you could introduce this one, please.
I think you've done a splendid job at introducing this already. Thank you, Malcolm. But so what we have here is so the current parish boundary is along the river. Apart from, I think this is quite a historical building, just on the edge of the works there, and then it comes back down to the river and continues. The proposal is that Perran Foundry in its entirety is transferred from the parish of Myler to the parish of Perranawirthal. Myler oppose this change, and Perranawirthal support this change. Again, Andrew, do you have any information on any submissions that we have around this?
Yes, I recall that there were some submissions from individuals and community groups within Myler that opposed the recommendation by the council for the change, but there was also support from individuals within Myler Parish itself for it, as well as support from Perranawirthal. So it's not clear cut. That's one thing.
Just to add to that, Chairman, 9 submissions were received, as we said in the report, from residents, of which 6 wish to remain within the parish of Myler and 3 wish to transfer to Perranawirthal. We do say in the report that it is a very, very finely balanced issue because of the consistency of boundaries and the community responses. But on balance, we still consider that the change would be better reflect the identity interests of the area, simply because Perranawirthal village is so much the nearest community.
Okay, I'm going to bring in the 2 local members first, Councillor Simmons and Councillor Williams. I don't know which order you would like to go in.
Quite happy to go first, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Councillor Williams.
Well, as you well know, in my previous discussion about this, I mean, it's quite obvious. Perran Foundry is in Perranawirthal. There's no question about that, and it's almost 3 miles from Myler. Now, the main, I don't really want to have a bun fight with Myler over this. I mean, it's not about a bun fight. It's not about a precept. It's about trying to for the people who live in Perran Foundry to be part of Perranawirthal. There's lots of issues we got in Perranawirthal. Speeding is one of them, and they all play a part. And I think we've got some of the people who live in Perranawirthal who attend our Speedwatch team. And from what I've been to and asked them to write in, the ones that live there. Some of them don't live there. Some of them have their holiday homes. But we feel in Perranawirthal that we can best serve the people who live there within our council, because we're right on hand. And you know, there's lots of issues coming up all the time about the development. The development is not finished yet, and there's still lots of things that's happening and will be happening in the future there. And we feel that we could service them better because we see everything that happens there daily, and we feel that the people of that village would play a part within the Perranwardle parish, and that is really the reasons why we need it. And I mean, the Perranwardle foundry was built by the Fox family. The Fox family used to live in Tredrae Gardens. They built Tredrae Gardens. That was their home, and that is, I know Councillor Cole will come back and probably challenge me on it, but that is the facts. The Fox family did live in Tredrae Gardens, and they did build most of the property within the Perran foundry, and that's the reason we would like to have it, to bring it into our parish. We feel that we can best serve them because we're right on hand and close, and as much closer to our shops, the post office. They all use our post office and shops. So over to you, Mr. Chairman, to have a counterclaim from my colleague from Myler.
Okay, Councillor Simmons.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think if you look at this map, which is there now, the actual Moyler Parish boundary follows a very hard. It's a hard boundary. It follows the river, and all of the boundary is in Moyler Parish and always has been in Moyler Parish. If you look at the new line, I mean, Councillor Kenny mentioned just now, it's just a rough line through some trees and even around trees, where the solid boundary is the river now. I think Perranwardle said in the first instance that they would like it because you can only access it from Perranwardle Parish. Well, in the extraordinary meeting on the 10th of December, when the previous case here was talked about over there, the full council, on a vote of showing of hands, they actually did not support that, and which is on the same basis of what this is now. And really, this is common and unavoidable, but wholly satisfactory situation in most parish councils in Cornwall. No land is actually in parishes, although its entrance is in another parish. Moyler Parish Councillor spent 3 weekends doing a survey for the residents of Perranwardle. If you think the majority are second and holiday homes, there are only 14 premises that I've got full residence in, and like we've just been mentioned, 9 of them has chosen to stay with Moyler, and only 3 wants to go over to Perranwardle. Now, to me, that is a majority of people wishing to stay in Moyler. So surely the feelings of the community has to be taken into account of this. And so the recommendation, I think, should be altered to no change. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. It's good that you've both spoken very reasonably. You can come back later on if you want to, but I'll now introduce Councillor Thomas, followed by Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Councillor Simmons and Councillor Williams for their passionate approach to this in a very measured way. And Councillor Simmons does make a strong case, but I feel that the atmosphere of the area does very much lend Perran Foundry side to being seen part of Perranwardle, and we did spend a lot of time discussing this, both as a panel and in open meetings, and there's been a lot of concern to make sure that we have got a very balanced approach, and I cannot see anything that changes what the recommendation currently is at the moment. But I'm still open to hear people's views.
Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Chairman. Before I say what I was going to say, could I seek some clarity on the representations first? Because I think John misspoke when he said there were 9 people from within wishing to stay and 3 wishing to be transferred, because the report says there were 9 submissions in total, 6 to remain, 3 to move. And everyone's working off the assumption that those 9 representations all came from residents of the actual foundry complex itself. Is there any chance we could have that confirmed by the officers, just to get those numbers exactly right and that they are affected residents?
Andrew?
Perhaps if you continue your remarks, Councillor Cole, and
okay.
Officer, you know, yeah, and I will try not to forget to ask for that information to be given a bit later.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember this discussion. I was on the losing side last time. I was uncomfortable with a shift of a historic thing from a parish. So I think this is one today where I think it's going to be worth taking to the vote, so that we take a strong view one way or the other. So on that basis, I'll give notice that I'll move, that I will move in the see how the debate goes, but I'll give notice that I'll move no change as an amendment.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kenny.
Actually, I don't think it matters how we vote today. This is normally, if there's a conflict, I say defer. But in this case, I don't think there's going to be any new evidence. And at the end of the day, it's going to have to be a decision by Cornwall Council to decide whether they want to move it or not. I'm swayed, I think, by the argument that it's more the foundry should be in Perrin-Worthall, but I think it's just whatever way we vote, Cornwall Council will take a look at it as a whole, and the decision will be theirs.
Does anybody else wish to speak who hasn't spoken yet? Okay. I'll give some personal comments, which are personal comments, but they are what I said last time, and I'm saying it mainly because I was brought up in Carnan Downs, just up the road, and spent a lot of time in the Norway Inn. Now, it seems to me that the Norway Inn, if you've got anything which is a focal point for Perrin-Worthall village, as opposed to Perrin-Worthall parish, most of which is up the hill in Perrinwell Station village by the railway station, but Perrin-Worthall does have a few amenities, but the pub is the big one, and it's a very popular one, and I would guess that it is well frequented by people who are in Perrin Foundry. I'm just guessing. I don't know that, but it would seem logical. And I also do take the point that Councillor Williams has made about the commonality of interest on the A39, which is very, it's very contentious, traffic problems and speeding and all the rest of it. So I would have thought that residents living in Perrin Foundry would find quite a lot of affinity with people living on the other side of the main road in Perrin-Worthall village. So, my view is, and I accept that the opinions which have been expressed do need to be taken into account, but my opinion is that these properties should be moved into Perrin-Worthall parish. But that's just me as an individual. I'm not claiming any more wisdom than anybody else. Andrew, I think you may now have answers for Councillor Cole.
Yes, on reviewing the submissions we had at public consultation, those that were supportive of the council's recommendation were all residents of Perrin Foundry. The others in opposition were of a wider area.
Yeah, thank you very much. Could I ask Councillor Simmons and Councillor Williams if anybody has said anything that you want to come back on, or anything else you want to add briefly before we go to the vote?
Yes, I may, if I can, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and the survey was taken just for the 14 premises that are only lived in, and I'm sure those 9 did come from the whole of Perrin Foundries, of which I'm aware of. But to say that this is close to Cornwall or Perrin, I mean, other places in our villages, Trevism, which is 2.5 miles away from Moiler, but only 100 yards away from Penryn. I mean, you don't think that as Penryn. The same as down at where the Pandora Inn is only a couple 100 yards from Fielk. So, you know, I can't see the argument that this is part of Cornwall. I just can't see it. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Williams, do you want the very last word?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. Well, like I said in the beginning, I don't want to have a bun fight. I think the logic of this Perrin Foundry now, it's part of Perrin. There's no question about that. And the people who live there will want, in my view, the majority of people will want to stay with us in Perrin. And you're absolutely right when you say about the Norway. These people use Norway on a regular basis. And my view is that we should stick with the recommendation by the officers. I've got no axe to grind with Myler or Councillor Simmons. I think the logical way of looking at this is to bring this within the Perrin parish. And that's my last word, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Now, we have a proposition from Councillor Cole. Could you put it again, and I will ask if there's a seconder.
I'll put an amendment that the recommendation changes to no change.
Okay. Councillor Bastin, are you seconding that or asking to speak?
No, I'm prepared to second that on the grounds that, first of all, the river itself is a very hard boundary, and there's an awful lot of history sitting there as well, which I think is too easy to lose.
Fair enough. Okay, now I'm going to move to the vote now. So the proposition from, which is an amendment to the officer recommendation, but would be what would go to council. Proposition from Councillor Cole, seconded by Councillor Bastin, is for no change. Okay, so we will take a roll call vote on that.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Bastin, please.
For.
Councillor Brown.
Against.
Councillor Cole.
For.
Councillor Formosa.
For.
Councillor Kenny.
Against.
Councillor Moorcroft.
For.
Councillor Rouse.
For.
And Councillor Mike Thomas.
Against.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
That is carried 5-3.
Correct, thank you.
Okay, so that is the recommendation that will go to council. So we now move on to the Penryn St Gluvius parish bound. The Penryn St Gluvius parish boundary, which is page 57, paragraph 36.
I will, I'm sorry, I'll just bring up the consultation document, as this was a recommendation for no change.
Yes, and the recommendation is in 38.4, no change be made to the boundaries between the parishes of St Gluvius and Penryn.
Here we are. Sorry for the slight delay. So we have this this area to the northwest of Penryn. I don't have a huge amount of background about the reasons for the change. I believe was there some student accommodation planned for this sort of development area. But it's this area outlined in red. So we have two proposals here. One was the transfer of land from St Gluvius to Penryn parish, and then the other one, which we're not discussing at the moment, was the transfer from Mabe to Penryn. So the one that we're discussing at the moment is this top section from St Gluvius to Penryn, and the officer recommendation was no change.
Thank you very much. Does anybody wish to comment on this? The recommendation is no change. Can I ask Councillor Simmons? You're doing well at the moment. Have you got any comments on this one, and or Councillor Williams?
Yeah, I'll speak first. I know this isn't my ward. I think Penryn really wanted to take this into their boundary because it is Penryn campus. They all use Penryn, but the officer's recommendation is no change. So I think Penryn are quite happy to go along with that.
Yeah. Councillor Williams, have you got any comments on this one?
Yes, Chairman, I have got comments on it. First of all, I want to say that the university is in the parish of Mabe and not in the parish of Penryn. Secondly, I agree that it should be no change. I'm very happy for that.
Okay, I think everybody's saying no change. Does anybody wish to propose an amendment to the officer recommendation, which is no change? No. So that goes through. So we now come on to the Perranawyrthal St Gluvius boundary, which is page 49, paragraph 43.
So,
no,
page
oh, sorry.
59,
No,
Chair.
I've got one wrong, haven't I?
Page 59.
59, that's right. Can't get them all right.
So within the consultation document, as I mentioned earlier, this was displayed on the same map as the Scythian's Kennel Vale proposal, but what we're looking at here is just north of Ponsanooth, transferring this area outlined in turquoise from Perranawyrthal parish to St Gluvius parish. It includes a small number of properties and some farmland, and I believe both parish councils are accepting of this change.
Councillor Williams, you represent both parishes, don't you? Can you confirm that both parishes support this?
Yes, Chairman, I can confirm that both parishes are happy with this, and we feel that the recommendation should go forward now.
Good. Well, we certainly have agreement there. Any comments, or was everybody willing to accept the the harmony that has suddenly broken out. Good. Okay, now the next one is the name of St Gluvius, to change the parish name to Pontsynooth, and this is page 60, paragraphs 50 and 51, running over the page, and the recommendation is for the name to change from St Gluvius to Pontsynooth, as the parish council seems to want. Any comments on that? Everyone happy with? Yep. Councillor Cole.
I personally don't agree with such name changes for historic parishes, but if that's the view of the local people, I'm not going to move anything. I just personally always prefer the historic names to stay, but there you go. So yeah, no change. Sorry, yeah, no change.
Okay, Councillor Kenny.
Why? I mean, I think St Gluvius is a lovely name. Why do they want to change?
Because Pontsynooth is the big village within the parish, and that's a lovely name as well. Councillor Williams, can you help us as regards why the request was made in the first place?
Well, you was absolutely right to say that the Pontsynooth is the village of the parish. There is no such village as St Gluvius. It's a name. It's a lovely name, I agree. But everyone are going looking for St Gluvius parish, and they won't find it. They might find St Gluvius church in Penryn, but they won't find it in the St Gluvius parish. But yes, the aspirations of the parish council and everyone in the council and everybody in the village is that we need to determine the actual name of the actual parish should be Pontsynooth. That's where the parish council is, and that's where the village is. Thank you.
Sorry, somebody wants to speak, but it's been covered up. Sorry, who else wishes to speak? Councillor Simmons.
Yeah, I did put an X in the box to
yeah,
speak.
sorry. When emails come in, they sometimes cover it up. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. With this name change, I think Councillor Williams is absolutely right. St Gluvius Church is actually in my parish, which is Penryn, and St Gluvius really hasn't got nothing to do with Pontsynooth whatsoever. So
it's one of these parishes which has a very strange boundary, if you think about it. Could I, Sarah Mason, Sarah, you're leaving. Thank you very much for attending. You know, we are getting to the stage that we are coming to a lot of conclusions, and we will wait to hear from parishes up and down Cornwall whether we're making good ones or bad ones. Councillor Cole again.
Yeah, this will help close this one down. Just to give Peter an even better argument, obviously Pontsynooth is half old St Gluvius parish and half of Pontsynooth used to be in Stithians parish before a previous boundary change. So given those changes, it's not a bad idea to name it after that large settlement. So yeah.
You're more flexible than I thought, Vice Chairman.
I can be nice sometimes, Chairman. So
yep, chalk it up. So I think by discussion we've reached acceptance that we will go along with this. So the last item to be considered is the boundary at Blackwater between St Agnes and Chasewater, and that is on page 66, paragraphs 20 and 21. Now again, we don't have either of the local members here, but there's been a lot of discussion about this through the review, including at one of the public meetings when we had a big attendance from people from different parts of the St Agnes area, and a long statement from Councillor Dyer, which I remember. So, officers, can you introduce this one?
So as you alluded to, we had two separate submissions originally for this. We had one from Chasewater Parish that wished for the whole of Blackwater to be within Chasewater Parish, and we had the St Agnes Council requesting this area here that we see on the map to be transferred from Chasewater to St Agnes to include all of Blackwater within a single parish. The officer recommendation is that it's transferred in St Agnes's favour, I think because the majority of Blackwater is already within St Agnes. Again, sorry, I'm going to refer to Andrew again. Andrew, do you know of any information on any other submissions?
We didn't have any other substantive submissions during the consultation phase. There were a couple of representatives, one from the parish council in Chasewater and one from the Chasewater community group that was dealing with the development plan. But it was felt that there wasn't anything new that they brought to the table from what was discussed prior to.
It's a shame in a way, this one, because my impression is that they're both very good parish councils. But you know, the recommendation is for the boundary change to occur, and it does look logical. Does anybody wish to comment on that? Councillor Kenny.
Yes, I think I echo what you said. There was a very long debate on this, and ultimately I think we went for the St Agnes way. I think Councillor Dyer made a very good point about the drainage, and that decisions made in Blackwater could have a very strong effect on Chasewater. But overall, we decided that since most of it was in St Agnes anyway, it made logical sense. And the road, which is where the boundary is quite a hard border.
Yeah. Any further comments? Does anybody wish to propose anything different from the officer recommendation? No. In that case, that is agreed. It's if I keep talking for a little, the clock will turn to bang on 5 o'clock. I think we've done very well today. So in effect, as we discussed an hour ago, I suggest that the meeting closes today. That there is another meeting next Tuesday. Just to clarify, I think I'm right on this, Steve, aren't I? The meeting next week is a different meeting, so that, for example, if anybody isn't able to attend, you can get a substitute for yourself.
Yes,
so
right.
in effect, we start with Newquay, then deal with the St Austell areas, then Wadebridge, Liscard, Wendron and Cubert, and those will be the last issues to be considered. So we should be able to conclude a full set of recommendations to council, which in some cases already, and maybe in more cases, will be for deferral to the next council. So does anybody have anything else to say tonight?
Can I just, are we getting new papers for Tuesday? Are we still using
No, I don't think so. Can I just check with officers? I don't think so. I think if you're happy with this, I think officers will update with anything significant.
Chairman, yeah, we're intending to use the pack, Chairman.
I think they've done that well today. In a way, the meeting hasn't been what I expected today, in as much as I was expecting more members not on the panel to be present. So some issues that could have taken quite a lot of time didn't really have debate. What that means as regards when it comes to council, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But you know, I hope everybody feels that they were understanding fully what they were being asked to vote on. Councillor Thomas.
Yes, just to ask in relation to Councillor Kenny's point, what about any further representations? Do our papers cover all the representations that have been made for the remaining boundaries that we're going to look at?
The papers won't, but you'll be given an oral update. I think I don't know whether officers can confirm this. I can certainly confirm it in relation to last week's meetings. Certainly for myself, the number of emails that came in the 2 hours before the meeting started were just ludicrous. And I think it is impossible to come up with an up-to-date written report of all the submissions. It's really a matter of whether you're content that the way officers have presented things today has been adequate. I think it's been fair and it's been adequate, and if anybody has wanted clarification, I hope I've given every opportunity for that to have been done. Stephen.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to echo what you said, Chairman, we have tried to, we have updated members where we have received further submissions, and there has been exchanges of correspondence which expands on current submissions and gives further information, for example, and we will be updating members on those, but we'll never have an exhaustive list because, as you quite rightly said, we are getting emails virtually daily on various things. Fortunately, there's not that many more left now, but they are the more contentious ones, as you quite rightly said, Chairman.
Okay, I will then close the meeting and look forward to seeing you for the last time next week. Thank you, Mike. Could officers hang on the line a minute, and Vice Chairman, we'll just sort of see if anything needs to be picked up. But thank you all for your contributions to a meeting that I think went pretty smoothly. Thank you all. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Chair.